Here's a play out of the Texans playbook that's called strong close tight end option that I like to go ahead and run to attack cover 4 coverage. Now, as you look at this particular play, what I really like about it is the halfback, and he runs an angle route. So here he is right here. He's coming out of the backfield, and he's running this angle route in this area here. He winds up going towards the sideline, then he winds up breaking over the short middle of the field. Now, against zone coverage, generally at some point he's going to wind up being open. And that's the reason I like this. Not only do I like this route against zone coverage, I also like it against man coverage. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the zone coverage as far as with this particular defense. And you can see it's a cover 4 defense. Now, this one's a little bit different than the one that I showed when I ran it against ace-tight slot stick switch from the Patriots playbook. Whereas you remember right, in that particular cover 4 defense, we wind up just having one defender dropping back in hook zone. This particular one, there winds up being 2 defenders. So you got this linebacker and this linebacker dropping back. So it makes it a little bit more tricky as far as getting the receiver open, because now you have 2 defenders dropping back in hook zones, and the more defenders that are dropping back in hook zones, the more difficult it becomes to throw over the short middle of the field. Now with this particular play, I'm going to kind of run this the same way as I showed earlier with the ace-tight slot stick switch, where I wind up hot routing 2 receivers on curl routes. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and do that right now as you look at it. And what we're going to wind up doing here is hot routing this receiver right there, which happens to be the split in on a curl route. And then we're going to hot route the tight end on a curl route as well. So we got those 2 receivers running curl routes, and then we're going to hot route the fullback to go ahead and run a swing route out towards the right. Now, speaking of the fullback, if you want to, you can leave him in the pass block as is. And for me personally, I'll kind of give you guys a little bit of what I like to do, kind of going off a little bit off track of this particular play. But what I like to do, especially in the first quarter, is I like to try to send everybody out. And then if my opponent is getting a lot of nasty heat on me and he's got some kind of great blitzes or something like that, then what I may wind up doing is I may wind up at some point, actually what I will wind up doing is leaving in some guys to pass block, whether it be a fullback, halfback. And that way I wind up eventually countering his blitzes. But initially I like to send everybody out. So that way I have all 5 of my receivers. And as I said before, if he starts getting a lot of pressure, then I'll start making my adjustment as far as with my pass protection. So let's go ahead and continue on with this play. Now, with this one, ideally what I'm looking to do here is I'm looking to go ahead and throw to this halfback as he comes out of the backfield. Either I'm going to hit him right there just before he goes ahead and winds up breaking towards the middle of the field, so I might wind up throwing the ball there. Or what I'm going to look for is for him to come over here over the short middle of the field and throw the ball in that area there. So that's the idea of this play. So at some point, he's going to wind up being open. So let's go ahead and run it and see what he does there. There I'm going to go ahead and throw the ball a little bit earlier right there, because the reason I did that was, of course, you wind up getting offside there, but we're going to decline that and take a look at this from the instant replay. And as you look at it, the reason I did that is because this linebacker, and I'll show him to you here in a second as we get an instant replay, and you kind of watch here. 2 of the linebackers I'm actually watching on this particular play when I ran it was this guy right here and then this guy right here. I'm looking for those 2 guys to see what they wind up doing. And in this case, if I see that linebacker dropping back, and this linebacker's dropping back in a curl to the flat, if I see him dropping back, then that kind of tells me right off the bat that the receiver I need to throw to quickly, which is going to be this halfback out of the backfield, I need to throw to him before he breaks over the short middle of the field. And that's what I wind up doing there. And you can kind of see how this play winds up working. Now, something else I want to talk about. Let's go back over here. Something else that you might be noticing as you're watching this is that this hook zone, this linebacker right here, who's dropping back in the hook zone, now what he's doing here is he's going back here to cover that curl route. Now, not always will he do that. Sometimes he'll stay up here and he'll be in position to go ahead and take away this route here. If I was to run this play here where I got this halfback breaking over the middle, he'll actually step up in that position. Also, this defender right here, the one I was talking about dropping back in the curl to the flat, this one right here, sometimes he may wind up staying up here. So you got to watch and see where these guys, what they wind up doing. If they stay here, then you can't make that throw there. You got to wait till he breaks over the short middle of the field. If both these guys are in positions such as what I'm showing here, and they're not dropping back, then you want to go ahead and throw that curl route that's ran by the split in right there. So just keep that in mind. There's a lot of different things you got to watch on this particular play as I'm showing here. And that's the reason I want to talk about that. So you got really those couple different options to go ahead and throw to when you run this play. You just got to kind of watch to see what those linebackers do when you run it against cover 4 coverage. So the name of this one is called strong close tight end option. We're looking to throw to the halfback, especially against cover 4. This play actually will work against some of the other coverages in cover 3. Cover 2 might be a little bit harder because you wind up having 3 defenders dropping back in hook zone. Sometimes it gets real, even 4 possibly, depending on what your opponent does. And it can be really difficult, and then you may have to go up top. But again, this play is one that I like to attack cover 4 coverage. You can find it out of the Texans playbook.